Don't forget to hit like on the video if you are enjoying the content. Leave a comment below on the video if you are so inclined to express your thoughts and opinions, or do me a solid and hit me up with a subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with the content or just want to show your support. And yeah, let's play some fucking Guild Wars. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Let's Replay Guild Wars 2. My plan today is to go and do some dungeons. Or a dungeon. I think we'll keep that singular for the time being. I have a contingency plan that has 5 points to it to make sure that this gets done. But the first thing I'm going to do before anything else is, if you see down on my bar here, I am currently level 41. I am going to get to level 45, and then I'm going to do a bit of a gear check, see if I'm where I need to be for all my gear before I start walking into a dungeon. So, with that said, I am going to get my process underway here. I'm going to head back to Blaze Ridge Steps. I'm going to look for some places and go and get my level on really quickly. So let's get going. So one thing you may notice as I am walking around here and the treasure is kind of piling up down on the side of my screen there, is I'm taking in things called radiant dust here. One of the important things to keep in mind about Guild Wars 2 specifically, as you are making your way through the world, is that these crafting materials you are getting in the mid-game are actually of greater value than the crafting materials that you get at the end game. And the primary way that you are going to be making your money in Guild Wars is via the crafting materials that you get. Either you're going to use them and craft them into things, or you're just going to sell them. So what's really kind of important and interesting to note here at this point is that the money that you're getting for what's actually dropping off these enemies is relevant. Let's take a look at how relevant. You know, in just that little time there, we picked up 8 piles of radiant dust. If we go to the trading post right now, so we go and try and just sell these, that's 60 silver right there. So that is not an insignificant amount of money that you are making at these levels. So it's kind of important to keep realizing that, you know, if you're getting to the end game and you don't have any gold, the first place to look is your material storage, because you are making a little bit of money as you are playing at this point, and it's not completely irrelevant amounts of gold. Little event, dynamic event we can actually trigger here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Are you looking for a fight? I am always looking for a fight. Let's go. Let's go. I will take the branded. This is another one of those points where Guild Wars 2 is just at its absolute best. Just these kind of random events that you can actually trigger, and they're not like, you know, all cut and pasted from each other. Some of these are genuinely interesting and very well put together. I just got to give it up again for the design of this game, and its open world particularly is just absolutely phenomenal. Level the hell up. Oh look, we can use miniatures now. You know, the miniature system, if you are unacquainted, is just a non-combat pet that does absolutely nothing. Even monetized in the gem store, but unlike Black Desert Online, are not power creep. What we get here is the choice of a number of different hats. I am going to choose the Power and Precision hat, the Hunter's Black Earth Aqua Breather. It's not even a hat, it's for underwater. Well, that'll be useful for about 14 seconds. One thing you'll notice after the event that I did there, I picked up a bunch more of that radiant dust, and let's take a look. Currently at a gold 75 for about, you know, 10 minutes of my leveling here, so absolutely not bad. Let's go ahead, we'll equip this, And let's move on with our lives. Another thing to keep in mind is as we get to this point of the game, the gathering nodes, some of them become relevant here as well. Specifically, I'm going to talk to the common mining nodes and the trees. Will both be worth your time chopping at this point. So it's a good idea to start picking up the mining pick, the logging axe, the harvesting sickle. Another good thing, of course, to note about this, like everything else, including breathing, you will get XP for this activity, and it will help level you a little bit. But more to the point, you know, if you're just looking to level, you know, forego it completely. But if you're looking to get to the end game with a few bucks in your pocket, you know, stopping at the gathering nodes is not going to kill you in terms of time spent, and will generally create a decent little nest egg for you when you get to the end game. The one thing I do want to point out here about gathering nodes specifically at this point of the game, and we'll move down here because I saw one of the nodes that we're talking about, is that when I'm talking about metal, there are going to be two different kinds of metal. There's going to be metal that is good and metal that is bad. Metal that is good at this level of the game is going to be iron and platinum. Iron that is bad is going to be gold and silver. Gold and silver in this game just don't have a whole lot of value. They're used almost exclusively, I want to say, in the jewel crafting discipline. The jewel crafting discipline has very, very little value in this game, and specifically, you know, if you're looking to get to the end game, I'm hard pressed to think of any real value that I get out of having a jewel crafter at max level. So keep that in mind. So I'm looking at this gold ore here. I'm not going to mine this. However, if I see iron, I'm absolutely going to mine iron. If I see platinum, I'm absolutely going to mine platinum. I'm not going to mine silver for the same reason I am not going to mine the gold. And that really is kind of best practice at this point. I think you'd probably even be losing money buying gathering tools and gathering gold and silver at this point. So I would just kind of pass on those, but keep in mind that the iron and the wood specifically at this point of the game is going to provide you a fair bit of monetary value going forward into the future. One thing to keep in mind here at this point is I'm going to be making sure that I hit each and every hero point that I'm seeing for the next little bit. The reason being, I am level 42. At level 45, I'm going to get my my second specialization tree that's going to open up. So I'm definitely going to want to have a few points to invest in that, specifically as I'm going to be getting ready to go into that dungeon at that point, and hopefully going to be set up a little bit better than maybe I am right now. So what I am going to do here, just make sure that I'm hitting each and every hero point that I see. I'll start gathering these bats up here. Take them all out at once. Get this one too. Aggro all the bats. Yeah. They ain't ready for me. I'm a master batter. Confound these begrimed by Biddle. This is why I can't read a surah. Hey, what's your plan? I really don't care. A raven, that's a... Okay, good. Now what happens? Oh. Okay. Yeah, great. So this is one of these hearts where they turn you into something else, and you have to go around and do things as another thing. I don't know. I mean, okay. There are points when I think it's good. This starts to feel a little gimmicky at other points. Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm finally fighting some Grawl. Minor potion of Grawl slaying activated. Well, that was anticlimactic. See, remember when I was back in Fields of Ruin talking about how every map had one heart that was hopelessly borked on every map? This right here is the one for Blaze Ridge. Aid historian Jamel's research at the wreckage of Serenity. By all means, unless you are doing a world complete or a map complete, avoid this heart like the plague unless the event is on. I'm going to avoid it. Here we go, level 45. What I'll do here is just accept the fact that I'm getting 12 hero points, a second specialization slot, and able to go to Cauticus's Manor Explorable. I'll hit OK on that and hit close. Before I head back to Fields of Ruin, I just want to point this little spot on the map out. This is Terra Cararunda. One of the reasons why I point this spot out is because if you were at that point of the game where gathering is valuable and important and part of your gameplay loop, this little spot here is actually really good for iron. And I'll just pull up the map here really quickly and give you guys a kind of a better idea about that, or I would if I could find my hotkey. Let's try this one more time, shall we? Interesting. Okay, well, you know, Mind Circus has forgotten how to access the map. This is great. Let's try this one more time. Wow. Okay, we got a map. It's this little area here that I'm kind of circling. If you run around this general vicinity here with your gathering tools, I would absolutely guarantee that this is one of the better areas for iron in the game. Iron becomes really important at the beginning of endgame as you are starting to craft your first set of ascended gear, so definitely keep that in mind. This little spot is a winner. But with that out of the way, I am going to head back to Fields of Ruin, and we are going to talk about our next step in today's episode. Alright guys, let's take a few minutes and let's talk about dungeons. Why are we talking about dungeons? Dungeons typically, if you can get a decent team, will take about 20 minutes or so for a story mode dungeon, maybe a half hour. Over that time, you're going to pick up a level and a half, probably about a level and a half during that time. And generally, you're going to get it done in about 20 minutes. And that's obviously not awful progression, particularly at this point of the game when we're already over level 45. So, you know, not a bad idea. Obviously, we would level quicker from open world content and just doing what we have been doing up until this point. That said, however, you know what? I'm all into a change of scenery every once in a while. So let's just move on from that. Let's talk about dungeons in general. Let's talk about expectations versus reality. Dungeons in other MMOs, an absolutely integral part of them. Dungeons in Guild Wars 2, much like everything else, largely optional. We have the ability to unlock these story mode dungeons as we go through. Story mode, obviously the easy version of a dungeon. And then what happens is later on we unlock what's called an explorable version of the dungeon. The explorable version, significantly harder, significantly better rewards. The explorables in this game, while we can technically hit them up at earlier points, are generally treated as end game content, and you're better just waiting until you're 80 to go into explorables. That said, you know, the story mode dungeons are absolutely there, and despite what people would have you believe, pretty active. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Dungeons in general, as I said, you know, an obvious staple in other MMORPGs, but in Guild Wars 2, not so much. And in fact, dungeons themselves, in the name dungeons, stopped being developed shortly after the game launched and have not seen a dungeon added in many years to the game. But dungeons became what are called fractals, and fractals are just short dungeons. And despite what a lot of people would have you believe, and a lot of people pushing their own agendas, etc., would have you believe, you know, there is a difference in that there is an immersion breaking that comes with the fractal system. Anytime you get into a lobby-based system where, you know, you quickly go into one of a number of instances from a lobby, you lose a lot of immersion. immersion. You don't have that connection to the real world. There's no gate into the instance itself, etc. But that's something that Guild Wars is always going to do to you. If you are a player that favors immersion over everything, you know, this is probably the wrong game for you, because Guild Wars 2 is always going to give you convenience over immersion and quality of life over immersion. It's always going to make that choice in favor of your quality of life and your convenience. It's part of, you know, the manifesto, quote unquote, about it. So, you know, the content itself, the dungeon content, is not being released, but there is 5-person instance content being released in the form of dungeons, in the form of fractals, and also in the form of what are called dragon response missions, which were added recently in the Icebrood saga, which are just a different kind of 5-person content. They're a new wrapper on the story mode of the game, but they are a little bit harder. They're a little bit better tuned, etc. They scale up for multiple people. They're just a little more enjoyable than going in and doing the story instances, but maybe not on the same level as the dungeons. Now, the dungeons in Guild Wars 2 obviously are really well crafted. Some others maybe not so much. We can take a look at Ascalon Catacombs, which is gorgeous, well crafted, and in fairly good shape for their age. However, we can look at other ones like Honor of the Waves, which are not nearly as decent quality as these. So let's keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about the other version of dead content, or the complaints that are typically leveled at the endgame formula on, say, the Guild Wars 2 forums or such. We see a lot of threads saying, nobody does dungeons, I can't get a team for dungeons, everyone speedruns these things, and when I can get a team, all they do is do skips, and I'm left behind, and I can't learn it. And there's a lot of complaints that come out about dungeons. These are not complaints that are obviously, you know, specific to Guild Wars 2. There's a certain part of the population of any MMO that will never take the experience of their gaming into their own hands. In this scenario, we're going to do it with the LFG. We may get to the point where we have to go into the LFG. My point, or my goal here, is to complete this dungeon. My first step is I'm going to go in here fully blind, without, or, you know, let's not use that term, without having changed a thing on my character, without optimizing a thing, and I'm going to go and see if I can get the dungeon done. The next thing is that if I'm not successful with that, I'll retool my toon, I will take a look at my build and my gear, etc., and optimize those a bit and give it another shot. If that doesn't work, I'm going into the LFG at that point, and I'm going to try and get some people. So with all that said, I want to have one more soapbox moment about the dungeons. Are they soloable? The story mode of all dungeons are absolutely soloable. Is that the preferred way to do them? Absolutely not. The preferred way to do the dungeons in this game is absolutely as a social experience. They are far more fun if you get more people. You know, there's just no two ways about it. If you need to pick up random people, obviously that can be a little bit different in terms of your experience, but generally, if you want this to be a fun, smooth experience, you're going to do it with your friends. You're going to do it with a number of people. You're just going to, you know, chill out on Discord, blaze one, and just do some dungeons or something like that. That's kind of the way I look at it. So while the story modes of these dungeons are all absolutely soloable, they may present a lot of difficulty for the newer player, particularly, and I wouldn't touch them until you were level 80 and dealing, you know, and fully involved in your level 80 power creep. I wouldn't go in here at a level appropriate level as a new player and try to solo the story modes of these. I would absolutely pick up some people and just do it and enjoy it. Let me get this underway. I'm jumping in sight unseen, and I'm going to smack some dudes. All right, Ritlock trombone. Let's get started. Yeah, at this point, you know, I'm a good 35 seconds in, And I know already this isn't going to work for me. I need to be taking this stuff out way quicker and with way less problems than this if I'm going to be successful at it. So basically, I'm just going to take this dude out, and then I'm going to go reevaluate my toon because, you know, this is time not well... Oh, well, saw that coming. So we are back in Fields of Ruin. Let's take a look at our character, our gear, and our build and see where we are at this point. So we have the ability to put another specialization in here. We're definitely going to do that. Let's look at gear first real quick. And if we look at the equipment... So I am running a few very old pieces of gear, meaning, you know, over 5 levels out. Yeah, this is not a good situation. So what I'm going to do here is take a little bit of a pause, not bore you guys all with my every single choice here. I'm going to go in and see what I can do about improving my gear situation while still keeping in the challenge limits, and we'll see what we get. For the huge cost of 3.5 silver and some karma, I've upgraded a few things. Let's take a look at that. Let's bring up my build here. You'll see I put some points into soul reaping. At this point, I've got soul barbs, which is really what I was looking for. We'll get a meaningfully life increase, or sorry, life force increase with that. This should create a little bit more damage for me at this point, which is obviously really important. Let's go over here into the equipment. You can mouse over it really quickly. Most pieces I kept. I upgraded 2 pieces of equipment and all of the weapons at that point. So with that said, let us make attempt number 2. Huh. Still smarter than you. Alright, let's get out of here. This is where we are going to cut today's episode. What we'll do here is we are going to come back next time and attempt a group pull of this. So what I'm going to do when we come back on our next episode is I'm going to explore the LFG system, setting up a group, etc. And if that doesn't work, you know what? I'm just going to call up one of my friends to carry me through it. I don't know. We'll see what happens at that point. But we will absolutely go ahead on the next episode and attempt to clear this with a group. We'll talk about getting a group and the best ways to find it. So that is where we will cut it. I will just say at this point, hey, thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Any thoughts, comments, concerns, ways to waste a little bit of my time, hit me up down in the comments down below. I'm going to remind you to min-max your real life and have fun in game. And I'm glad we took this moment. We'll see you next time.